I know that you are all excited about our new track. I've watched you guys run hundreds of laps around it, and some of you are really, really fast runners. Last week, George Elementary had a fundraiser for Arkansas Children's Hospital. We all found sponsors and collected money and ran around the track. And when we were doing that, we were raising money for sick children in Arkansas Children's Hospital. Another cool thing that we're doing with our track is when you make one lap around, you all get a bracelet. And every time you get your bracelet, your name goes on a tennis shoe and it's hung in the hall to show that you've run your laps. We are all getting in very, very good shape. And every time I walk by that bulletin board, the one outside the library here, and I see all of the shoes on it, I just think, wow, what great runners and what great shape you guys are getting in. And then last week I noticed that the shoes, you've run so many laps that the shoes are starting to go up onto the ceiling. And I can't help but giggle when I see that. So now there's shoes all over in the hall, even on the ceilings. So I thought it would be fun if I shared some great books with you about shoes. Would you like that? Okay. All right, our first book is called Centipede's 100 Shoes. And it's written by Tony Ross, and he also illustrated the story. And he's written over 100 books for children. And some of the books that we have in our library by Tony Ross are The Boy Who Cried Wolf, The Three Sillies, and Mrs. Goat and Her 7 Kids. And those are some of the books that we have by Tony Ross in our library. Several of his books have won awards. One of the awards that he won was the National Art Library Association Award, and he also won the Silver Paintbrush Award for Best Illustrations. So he's an author and an illustrator. But Centipede's 100 Shoes, he wrote the story and he illustrated it. In our story, Centipede's 100 Shoes, the fun begins when little Centipede stubs his toe and he decides that he needs shoes. Imagine being a centipede with all of those feet and having to try on shoes. Little Centipede's excited about getting new shoes until he realized how long it takes him to put those shoes on. And then he's got to lace them up. He's got to tie them. Before he knows it, it's time for bed. He's put his shoes on, he's laced them up, and now he's played just for a little bit, and it's time to go to bed. So he's got to untie them, take them off, and get in bed. Well, he's not so sure that he likes wearing shoes because it takes up so much time. And they hurt, and they're starting to rub blisters on his feet. He says to his mom, "My new shoes hurt," he cried. "Well, that's because you have no socks on," said his mother. Well, socks make his feet feel much better. But now it takes even longer to put his shoes on every morning. He's got to put on his socks, his shoes, and then he's got to lace them up. Poor little Centipede. He hardly has any time to play. I wonder, will he continue wearing socks and shoes, or will little Centipede just go back to walking barefoot? And if he does, what will he do with 100 pairs of shoes? Ouch. I do not like getting blisters on my feet. And I only have 2 feet. Poor little Centipede, he has 100 feet. And you know what? The problem that Centipede has in this story reminds me of a really cool pair of winter boots that I used to have. I loved them. They laced all the way up the front and had fur around the top of them. And I loved the way that they looked. And I thought that I looked pretty cool in them too. And every time I wore them, I got mad at them because the laces would slide off of the hooks and I'd have to retie them. And then I'd get them all tied and the laces would slide off and I'd have to retie them. So just like little Centipede, one day I decided, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I gave them to my little sister. And she liked them. I love to read books that make me laugh. The characters in this story, Little Centipede and his mama and his friends, they are all funny characters. Now, if Little Centipede decides to walk without shoes, then he's going to have lots of shoes that he's got to do something with. The next book that I have is going to give us some ideas of what Centipede could do with his shoes. This book is called What Can You Do with an Old Red Shoe? And it's written and illustrated by Anna Alter. Now, she's also written some other books. She's written Estelle and Lucy, Francine's Day, and A Photo for Greta. She's written those books, and she's also illustrated her own books, just like Tony Ross did. Some of her books have also won awards. She's won the Best Choice Book Award, and she's also won the Junior Library Guild Selection Award. So, what can you do with an old red shoe? This is an activity book that tells us ways that we can reuse or recycle things that we have just hanging around. Reusing things is lots of fun. You can reinvent things with worn-out items. It's always a great way to help conserve our natural resources and to create less trash that fill up our landfills. And you guys did a wonderful second grade program, your musical, and you sang about recycling and about keeping our planet nice and clean. And that's what this book is going to tell us to do. Finding new ways to use old things instead of just throwing them away keeps our environment or our earth healthy and clean. There are art activities that teach us how to reuse materials that we can just find around our house. So we could grow flowers in a shoe, or wear an apron that's been made out of an old shower curtain. How about make a rubber stamp from a flip-flop? Sounds kind of fun to me. I love to use old things. I have a couple of old buckets right outside my front door that have flowers in them. And instead of throwing away my old buckets, I decided to use them as planters. It makes me feel good inside to know that I'm reusing something instead of just throwing it away. You know, I think I might just go home and plant some flowers and some shoes. But not my shoes. Maybe my husband's shoes. You know what? I also have a really cool quilt that I made one time, and it's made out of old blue jeans. And it's a pretty cool one, too. I didn't have to throw the blue jeans away. All right, I know you know Pete the Cat.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Pete the Cat. He is a fun dude. In the first story, I Love My White Shoes, Pete goes strolling down the street wearing new white shoes that he loves. Of course, along the way, his shoes don't stay clean. They change colors from white to red to blue, and from blue to brown, and from brown to wet. And it didn't matter to Pete. He just keeps on moving and a-grooving and singing along his funky song. And what does he say? It's all good. Now, Pete the Cat, the author of Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes, is Eric Litwin, and we call him Mr. Eric. And he has won lots of awards. He's won 5 national awards for music and for storytelling. And he visits schools. I think that would be so cool. He visits over 200 schools every year. He goes to the school or to the library. And James Dean is the illustrator of Pete the Cat. Now, Pete the Cat is back in a new book. And this time,
Whoa.
he's traded in his white shoes, and he's got some school shoes. And our story is called Pete the Cat, Rockin' in My School Shoes. In this story, Pete discovers the library, the lunchroom, the playground, and lots of other cool places at school. You'll be wanting to read Rockin' in My School Shoes with Pete the Cat. You'll get moving and grooving as Pete sings his song. And I love Pete the Cat in his white shoes. Every time I read that book, I start singing the song, I love my white shoes. and I can't get that song out of my head all day long after I've read Pete the Cat. Then when I read this book and I learned his song, I couldn't get his new song out of my head. This time he's rocking in his school shoes. I'm rocking in my school shoes. I'm rocking in my school shoes. And listen to this, great news. There's a new Pete the Cat book coming out next month. And I'll make sure we get it. It's Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Sound like a good one? I can't wait to see what Pete is up to in his next book. Pete the Cat, rocking in my school shoes. Yeah, I got lots, honey. Next one. This is a nonfiction or an informational book about shoes. The title of this book is called Whose Shoes? A Shoe for Every Job. And it's written by Stephen Swinburne. Yeah. Stephen Swinburne is a children's book author, and he's also a photographer. And a photographer is a person who takes photographs or takes pictures. He loves to write about wildlife, and he also likes to write about our earth and how beautiful our earth is. He's written over 25 nonfiction books, and a couple of the books that we have in our library that he wrote are called Guess Whose Shadow, Turtle Tide, and A Butterfly Grows. And those are all available for checkout in our library. He has also won a couple of awards. One of the awards he won was the Society of School Librarians International Honor Book Award. That sounds like a pretty big fancy award, doesn't it? All right, in our book, I want you, imagine if a firefighter wore ballet slippers to work. Look pretty silly. Or what if a nurse wore construction boots to work? I'd look pretty silly if I was wearing farmer's boots to come to work in the library, wouldn't I? Yes. Or firefighter boots. There is a right shoe for every job. And wearing the right shoes can make your job easier. In this nonfiction picture book, Whose Shoes? Stephen Swinburne teaches us about different jobs or different occupations with easy-to-read words and bright, colorful photographs. Let me show you some of the beautiful photographs. See how he's got pictures? Yeah, soccer. Beautiful photographs. They take up the whole page. I love that. There are all kinds of boots and shoes in this book. And something kind of fun or cool about the book is that you'll have to match the boot to the person's job. And there's hints on each picture where you can find the right shoe for the right person. And then you can check your answer by turning to the next page. It's like every shoe is a mystery, but it's one that you'll have to solve. Whose shoes would you like to wear when you grow up? Army ones?
Soccer ones.
Soccer ones, army ones. I enjoy reading nonfiction books like this one. I always learn something new when I read nonfiction books. Gives me lots of information. I especially like Whose Shoes because of the pictures of the people and they're working at their jobs or at their different jobs. And I also like nonfiction with real photographs. I have all kinds of shoes and boots that I like to wear. When I'm working in my garden, I wear rubber shoes so that if they get muddy, I can just spray them off with the hose. I've got some really cool hiking boots that are very comfortable when I'm hiking up and down hills. But my favorite are my ski boots. And my ski boots are clunky and they're heavy, but when I clip them down or snap them down onto my skis, then all of a sudden I can just start skiing up and down the snowy hills. And I love those boots. But you know what? No matter what kind of shoes I wear, I love to take them off. I love to get home and take off my shoes and put on my slippers. Whose Shoes by Stephen Swinburne. Now I have another story about shoes. This story is called My Shoes and I. Now, this is written by Renee Colato Lainez, and she's a prize-winning author, and she received the International Latino Book Award in 2011. So that's an award that she's just recently won. She's also written a couple other books. One is called, I like this, The Tooth Fairy Meets El Raton Perez, From North to South, and Renee Has Two Last Names. These books have also won some awards. They've won that International Latino Book Award, just like My Shoes and I. Another award is the Skipping Stones Honor Award, and also the American Book Award. So she's won lots of awards. All right, I want you to look at me. Everybody look at me. I want you to imagine that you have a brand new pair of shoes. A pair that you picked out and that you really love. Can you see your shoes? Can you see them in your head? Now, I want you to imagine those new shoes that you love so much. I want you to imagine dirty, filthy, and yucky with dirt all over them. Imagine feeling something sharp on the sole of your favorite shoes. It's a sharp, pointed nail. Would you still love your shoes if they were all wet and cold with sticky mud?
Yes.
All right. My Shoes is a story about a brave young boy named Mario who leaves his home, who leaves his home in El Salvador to be with his mother in the United States. Just before leaving, Mario receives a new pair of shoes in the mail from his mother. And he's never had new shoes before. Listen to what he says. I love my new shoes. They walk everywhere I walk. They jump every time I jump, and they run as fast as me. We always cross the finish line together. With his father by his side, they begin their long journey to the United States. And Mario needs good shoes because the trip will be long and hard. They will cross the borders of 3 countries. They will walk for miles, they'll ride buses, climb mountains, and they'll wade through a river. Mario's shoes that he loves so much will get dirty, wet, muddy, and torn. And his feet will become sore and blistered from holes in the bottom of his shoes. Will Mario and his father survive that long, hard journey to the United States? What about Mario's shoes? Will he still have his shoes when he gets to see his mother? My Shoes and I is a special book to me. My son has a very good friend who lived in El Salvador when he was young. His family was very poor. He came to the United States when he was little to come and live with his aunt and uncle. He was 11 years old when he came. His parents still live in El Salvador, and he still stays here with his aunt and uncle, but he misses his mama and his daddy in El Salvador very much. And when I read this book, I can't help but think about his mama and how his mama must miss him, but she knows that he's safer and that he has a better life living here in the United States. So this is a special book to me. When I read this book, I think of Eduardo, my son's friend, every time, and I think about his mama and daddy who live in El Salvador. Now I have another book called The Orange Shoes. Now this is another great book. The author is Trinka Wiles Noble, or Hanks Noble, excuse me. She is known for writing the Jimmy Boa's books, The Day Jimmy's Boa Ate the Wash. We've heard that one, I think. And Jimmy's Boa Bounces Back. She wrote those books. She has won many awards. And this book, The Orange Shoes, this one was nominated for the Arkansas Diamond Award, not this year, but last year in 2009 and 2010. This book didn't win the Arkansas Diamond Award, but it was nominated for that award. All right, in The Orange Shoes, this is a story about a young girl named Dellie Porter. She loves to walk barefoot. She loves the feel of dirt between her toes, and she enjoys walking barefoot to school every day. Miss Violet, the teacher at Dellie's school, she announces that there's going to be a shoebox social, and it's going to be
Morgan.
Go ahead, sweetie. The shoebox social is to raise money for art supplies for their school. But the kids ask, what is a shoebox social? And Miss Violet says, it's when a beautifully decorated box is packed with a supper and auctioned off to the highest bidder. Then the money goes for a good cause. But our shoebox social will be more fun because each of you will stand behind the curtain, and when your box is up for auction, you'll stick up just one shoe so that the families have a clue as to who you are. Deli wants to come to the shoebox social, but she doesn't have any shoes or a shoebox to decorate. Her father works very hard just to put food on the table, and now their truck needs new tires. Extra money to buy a new pair of shoes, that's just a dream for Deli. But somehow, Deli's daddy makes that dream come true. He surprises her with a brand new pair of shoes, a beautiful pair of orange shoes to wear to the shoebox social. Deli can't wait to show the other girls at school. But instead of being happy for Deli, the mean girls stomp on her shoes, and they do their best to scuff and gouge the beautiful orange leather. They yell, "Dirt poor Deli can't have better shoes than us." Deli is heartbroken. Her shoes are ruined. What about the shoebox socials? What about the shoebox social? Oftentimes, authors want to teach us lessons in their stories, and this story teaches us a lesson about how to be kind, about how not to act like a bully. And when authors teach us lessons in the story, we enjoy the story, but we also leave or take away something from the story, and hopefully we learn a lesson from the characters in the story. And I love this story, The Orange Shoes, because it teaches us how to be a good person. And it also shows us how bad people can act. All right, I have another one. Boy's Salt in His Shoes. Have you read this one? Yeah, good, sweetheart. Salt in Our Shoes, Michael Jordan in Pursuit of a Dream. And it's actually written. Yes, you're right. And actually his mama wrote the story. Michael Jordan's mom, her name was Dolores Jordan, and his sister, Rosalind Jordan, wrote this story. Now, his mom has also written a couple other books about her son. Michael's Golden Rule. Another one is Big Dream, Michael Jordan in the Pursuit of Olympic Dream. And another one she wrote is called Did I Tell You I Love You Today? So she's a mama who's written some books for her son. Now, her books have not won any awards, but she was honored by the Illinois State Library. Dolores Jordan, the mother of the world's best basketball player, wrote Salt in His Shoes. And she wrote this to encourage other students or readers like us to follow their dreams, just like Michael did, by setting goals, working hard, and being dedicated. All right, in our story, young Michael Jordan is just a shrimpy old kid, and shrimpy means little. And he's trying to play ball with the big boys in the neighborhood. He's tired of being teased by the biggest boy on the court. And Michael is convinced that he'll never grow tall. So asking his mama how he could grow taller, she suggests putting salt in his shoes and saying a prayer every night. His daddy tells him, being taller may help you play a little better, but not as much as practice, determination, and giving your best will. Those are the things that make a real winner. Michael does just that. He puts salt in his shoes, he prays, and he practices every day. Michael finally gets the chance to show the big boys that even though he's not as tall as them, he's been practicing. And today, he is determined to win. Read this great story about Michael Jordan and see if it doesn't encourage you to chase your dream with hard work and faith. Books can bring back memories. And when I read this book, I think of my little boy when he was about your age. Michael Jordan was a superstar when my son was growing up. And my boy Jason, he had posters and basketball cards. He had books about Michael Jordan. He had hats. He had a jersey with his basketball number on it. And he even had tennis shoes like Michael Jordan. So this book brings back happy memories for me because I think about my son and how much he admired Michael Jordan. And he acted like him. He practiced and he was determined that he was going to be a good basketball player. And he was one of Michael Jordan's biggest fans. So I like to read a book when it brings back memories, especially when they're memories about my kids. All right, I have just a few more. You're sitting so nice. This is a good one, too.
Oh, I did this.
Have you read this one? Miss Bowman. Okay, I love this. This is another book that shows us through hard work and determination, just like the one, Salt in My Shoes by Michael Jordan's mother. This one will also show us that we can reach our dreams or that we can be the best at something when we work hard. This one's called Rap-a-Tap-Tap. Here's Bojangles. Think of that. The authors of this book are husband and wife, Leo and Diane Dillon. They also have written a few other books together, but they're best known for illustrating books. Together, they've illustrated over 20 books, like Why Do Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears? And they've won some big awards like the Caldecott Medal for Best Illustrations. This book, Rap-a-Tap-Tap, won the Coretta Scott King Award. And that award goes to an author who wrote a really great story about an African-American character. And his name is Bill Bojangles Robinson, and he is known as the greatest tap dancer of all times. He was a very popular entertainer in the 1920s and 30s. People said that this African-American tap dancer talked with his feet. Listen to the author's words. There once was a man who danced in the street. He brought pleasure and joy to the people he'd greet. He didn't just dance, he made art with his feet. Rap-a-tap-tap, think of that. Leo and Diane Dillon paint Mr. Bojangles so well that it looks like he is toe-tapping his feet. In the story, Mr. Bojangles moves from page to page, dancing his way through New York City, where he meets all kinds of people in their daily activities. Rap-a-tap-tap, what do you think of that? You'll be clapping and tapping along to this great book about Mr. Bojangles. And when I was a little girl, I actually took tap dance lessons. Now, I wasn't anything like Mr. Bojangles, but I loved my shiny black tap shoes and their silver taps and the way that tap, tap, tap sounded on that wooden floor. And my dance teacher actually told us about Mr. Bojangles when I was little. So when I found this book about him, I was so excited to share it with you. I like to read biographies and learn about people like Bill Robinson. Okay. Every cowgirl needs dancing boots. This book isn't a biography, but it's another story about a dancer. This is a fiction story about a little girl who likes to boot, scoot, boogie. The title of our book is Every Cowgirl Needs Dancing Boots, written by Rebecca Janney, and it's illustrated by Lynn Averill. She also wrote Every Cowgirl Needs a Horse and Jammy Dance. Every Cowgirl Needs Dancing Boots is about a cowgirl named Nellie Sue who has a brand new pair of dancing boots. She knows that dancing would be a lot more fun with friends, but her new neighbors, who she calls the Glitter Girls, they only wear pink tutus and ballet slippers. Nellie decides to throw a barnyard bash and invite the whole neighborhood. With her big imagination, Nellie turns her garage into the perfect place for a barnyard dance. She says, I swept the floor and scooted hay bales. I hung lanterns from the ceilings and streamers from the rafters. Then I hauled in the chuck wagon, and the chuck wagon brings in the food. Nice and steady so nothing's spilled. Soon, everybody's joining in. But could a slip, a trip, and a slide cause her big bash to be a big messy flop? You'll have to read Every Cowgirl Needs Dancing Boots by Rebecca Janney to find out. Now I can tell you, I'm not much of a cowgirl. I don't even have a pair of boots, let alone a horse. But I love to dance like Nellie Sue. When I was your age, I learned how to square dance in PE class. We would swing our partners round and round, and we'd do-si-do. And then when I got older, I learned how to two-step with my husband. Dancing makes me feel happy. And you know, after reading this book, I think I'd like to go to one of Nellie Sue's barnyard bashes. How about you? No? Would you boot scoot boogie?
No.
Okay, I have saved probably my favorite one to the end. This is an older story. This isn't a newer book about shoes. This is called The Old Woman and the Willy-Nilly Man. Now, a willy-nilly man? Shoes that dance and sing? This book sounds pretty crazy to me. The Old Woman and the Willy-Nilly Man is written by Jill Wright, and it's illustrated by Glenn Rounds. Another story written by Jill Wright is called The Old Woman and the Jar of Ums. And in that story, The Jar of Ums, the Willy-Nilly Man is also a character in that story. Now, the old woman in this story has a problem. Every night when she tries to sleep, her shoes go dancing all over the house, keeping her awake with the racket that they make. When she can't stand it any longer, she goes to a man with magical powers. She goes to the Willy-Nilly Man, who's a scary man who lives all alone in the backwoods. Listen to how the author describes him. Now the Willy-Nilly Man is scary. He has one big eye that rolls around and looks out the other way, so you can't tell if he's looking at you or not. And he's got a beard down to his knees. And all kinds of weird things live in that beard. Spiders live in there, and lizards, and sticks, and grease, and pieces of things that he's eaten, just hanging around on it. And the Willy-Nilly's man has one long crooked tooth, and it's black, because he never brushed it. Ugh, sounds scary to me. Sounds nasty, yeah. The old woman becomes angry at the Willy-Nilly Man when he tricks her, and he doesn't remove the curse from her shoes. So to get back at that Willy-Nilly Man, the old woman makes him his favorite thing to eat, blackberry jam. But she doesn't just put blackberries in that jam. She adds soap, rocks, spider webs, ink, paste, and then she even puts an old tooth that her cat lost into that blackberry jam. Payback. What will happen when that Willy-Nilly Man opens the jar of blackberry jam? What about her shoes? Will her shoes ever stop dancing? I guess you'll have to read it to find out.
Can't read it? No, stick with him.
You think she will? This is a great folk tale. I love stories that have been told over and over, just like this one. I especially like this folk tale because the old lady and the Willy-Nilly Man, they talk like they're from Arkansas.
Can we read it?
So honey, you know what? We can't read it right now. We don't have time to, but maybe we can read it next week. We'll read maybe a few of these books during library class next week. These two? Do they sound like some good ones for us to read about shoes?